Good morning, church. Welcome to another Living Hope Today study. I want to say hi to all my brothers and sisters at Living Hope Community Church and Iglesia Esperanza Viviente. I want to welcome you this morning. Today we find ourselves in Deuteronomy chapter 23. And let me just say this. God is no prude. He is willing to discuss very, very intimate, personal things. All right? And today he's going to help us understand what's acceptable to be in his assembly and what's not. Okay, so let's just start there and prepare ourselves for some frank discussion. In verse 1 of chapter 23, the Lord says, "No one who has been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord." So, just like he asked for the best animals in the sacrificial system, that you can't bring the old cow that, has no more worth to you. You need to bring your best for the sacrifice. Now he says if there's a deformity in a person, that's going to exclude them. A sexual deformity. Wow, interesting, isn't it? He says no one born of a forbidden marriage. Okay, what's that? Well, what's a forbidden marriage? Well, perhaps they were sleeping together before they were married. Perhaps they are not both from one of the 12 tribes. There's been an intermarriage with a pagan society. There are many things God presents as a reason that he doesn't want people to form that covenant of marriage with each other. He says, well, if that's happened, okay, and they go have kids, well, first of all, the couple that participates in that is not going to enter his assembly, nor any of his descendants. Wow. Okay, so the kids are not welcome either, may enter the assembly of the Lord, even down to the 10th generation. 10th generation, if the average lifestyle or span in those days was 40 years, we're talking about for the next 400 years, your family is excluded from entering the assembly of the Lord. Because your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents had sex outside of marriage, or for some reason they were in a forbidden relationship. I mean, this tells you God remembers. All right, now, why would God say that? I believe this is really intended to be a tremendously strict deterrent, that people will avoid these mistakes at all costs because they don't want to experience this exclusion. Verse 3, no Ammonite or Moabite or any of his descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, even down to the 10th generation. There we are again. For at least 400 years, we're excluding these people from the assembly of the Lord. Well, why? Well, for they did not come to meet you with bread and water on your way when you came out of Egypt. And so first of all, they didn't welcome you or facilitate your journey, even though you told them you weren't going to attack them, you weren't going to hurt them, you just wanted to walk through. They said, nope, we're not going to do that. God says, well, then you're not going to be in the assembly for at least 400 years, 10 generations. Wow. Okay, so they didn't welcome you when you came out of Egypt. Oh, and something else. They hired Balaam, son of Beor from Pethor in Aram Naharim, to pronounce a curse on you. God doesn't forget when his children are mistreated. Very comforting if you are one of his children wanting to follow him today. He does not forget. Now, they didn't experience this consequence right away, but God didn't forget, and there is a consequence for their evil behavior. All right? In fact, he goes on a little bit about it. However, the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam, but turn the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you. That's his motivation for his people. Love. What's he doing? Well, he's protecting them in so many ways. Do not seek a treaty of friendship with them as long as you live. They've shown their colors. They're not going to submit to God's people. They're not going to be in the assembly, and I don't want you guys to be friends with them. Wow. Okay, God. That sounds like a pretty strict rule. Do not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. Okay, wait a minute now. When we get to Edomites, now we have a different situation. He's your brother. Do not abhor an Egyptian. Really? Yeah. Even though God sent all those plagues to tell Pharaoh to let his people go, and the Egyptian army was wiped out, and they were clearly an enemy, in the end, you lived as an alien in that Egyptian's country, and we're not going to hate them. All right? The third generation of children born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. So for a couple generations, we're not going to allow them. We're not supposed to hate them, but they will be granted entrance when they get to that third generation. Wow. All right. So there's some leniency there, isn't there? When you are encamped against your enemies, keep away from everything impure. Okay, so just remember this, my children, as Moses relays this from the Lord. Just because you're entering the promised land, just because God is blessing you beyond your imagination and fulfilling the promises that he made to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you cannot let up on the pursuit of holiness. You are not going to relax that part of your life before God. You're going to maintain that. Keep away if it's impure. Now, watch this. If one of your men is unclean because of a nocturnal emission, he is to go outside the camp and stay there. All right? But as evening approaches, he is to wash himself, and at sunset he may return to the camp. Okay, well, there's a rule for that situation. All right, here comes another rule. Designate a place outside the camp where you can go to relieve yourself. Wow, God, we're getting pretty specific here, right? I mean, God has a standard. He wants order. He wants cleanliness. Think about the hygienic implications of this kind of instruction. God's keeping his people healthy in some ways. If they don't understand how that sort of situation could impact their health, as part of your equipment, have something to dig with. And when you relieve yourself, dig a hole and cover up your excrement. Well, now we're getting right down to it, aren't we? For the Lord your God moves about in your camp. Oh, okay, so we're going to live right. Why? Because the presence of God is here. That's why. We're going to do what God tells us to do and maintain our health standards, our cleanliness standards, because the presence of God is here. He's here to protect you and to deliver your enemies to you. Here it is. Your camp must be holy, so that he will not see among you anything indecent and turn away from you. In other words, your behavior has the capacity to offend God. So much so that God could, if he sees the indecency of whatever it is you're doing, he could turn away from you. We don't want that. So what do? We're going to pursue holiness. We're going to keep ourselves adhering to the standards God has given us. Now, another situation comes up. If a slave has taken refuge with you, do not hand him over to his master. Okay, so now this is somebody that wouldn't be in the Israelite community by birth, but they have been captured. They've been brought into that situation, and the foreign master may come for that slave. Well, don't give him back. Don't give him back. Well, should you just keep enslaving him and using him? Well, let him live among you wherever he likes and whatever town he chooses. Don't oppress him. Wow, freedom for the slave. Don't oppress him. Right? You're not to abuse a person. All of us are created in the image of God. No Israelite man or woman is to become a shrine prostitute. Notice how both genders are mentioned when it comes to prostitution. And what is a shrine prostitute? It's a pagan practice. And what is the pagan practice? Well, all through the pagan world at this time, and even today in some places, sex is used as an act of getting close to God. At least in the theory of what they think, that they can somehow unite themselves to the priestess or the priest, sexually speaking, and therefore encounter some spiritual moment. Well, God says, look, you guys aren't pagans. You're following the living and true God. You're not following these gods that the demons have manufactured. You're not to behave like them. I don't want anybody in the community to pursue this act, to be a man or a woman as a shrine prostitute. You must not bring the earnings of a female prostitute or of a male prostitute into the house of the Lord your God to pay any vow, because the Lord your God detests them both. I don't want you to live that way. And if they tell you, well, look at all the money we're making, we're going to help the community by donating all the money we're making as prostitutes, God detests that. He said, I don't want you to live like that, and I don't want your money. Keep it away from the community of faith. Do not charge your brother interest. Oh, okay, so now we move to another limitation or instruction where God says, look, somebody's going to have more money than somebody else, and they're going to come to the one with money and say, can I borrow some money? And if we get to that place where one becomes the lender and one becomes the borrower, here's some rules. Don't charge your brother interest, whether on money or food or anything else that may earn interest. In other words, don't make a profit off a fellow Israelite. You're not here to get gain from their need to borrow. No. You may charge a foreigner interest. Okay. If he's not in the community, okay, yeah, charge him interest. But not a brother Israelite. No. So that the Lord your God may do what? Look at this. May bless you in everything you put your hand to in the land you are entering to possess. Wow. So God's paying attention to how we use our resources. If we use them for godly purposes and we treat our brother with godly intent, not to charge interest, not to make money off of them, God's paying attention. He's going to bless you in everything. That's a fantastic truth to know. We're not to treat our fellow believers as people that are there for us to earn income off of, right? Not through interest. No. God says, forget that. Don't do that. If you make a vow to the Lord your God, don't be slow to pay it. For the Lord your God will certainly demand it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. Remember when Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no? Part of the integrity of following God is to do what you say you're going to do, and to not do what you say you're not going to do. Now, all of us are fallible. Some of us will make these mistakes, but the intention of our heart needs to be to have integrity here. God, if I make a vow to you, I'm going to do it. God, if I say I'm going to be at a certain place at a certain time, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, I'm going to perform that because I said it. You can count on my word. I have integrity. That's what God's after here. If you don't perform your vow to God, God's going to count it as sin against you. But if you refrain from making a vow, well, you'll not be guilty. In other words, you didn't promise God anything, so you didn't have to perform on that promise because there was no promise. Okay, you're not guilty. You don't have to make a vow, but if you do, then it's time to do what you say. Whatever your lips utter, you must be sure to do. Let your yes be yes, let your no be no, because you made your vow freely to the Lord your God with your own mouth. Such a simple concept, but yet some of us just can't seem to get it together when it comes to meaning what we say. I'm sure you have friends, I know people as well that when they speak something, nobody takes them seriously because for so many times, whatever they say, they don't do. So, they just get dismissed. God says, I don't want you to live like that. That's not the way. And the chapter ends here. If you enter your neighbor's vineyard, you can eat all the grapes you want, but don't put any in your basket. Okay, now we're back to loving our neighbor. We're walking through the vineyard. We're a little hungry. Pick a few grapes. No problem. Have some food. but you're not going to harvest his crop. You're not going to get your basket out and start loading up so that you're taking his produce away from him. No, you need to respect him by allowing his product, his produce, to remain his. Have a little, okay. It's restated in 25. If you enter your neighbor's grain field and you pick kernels with your hands, but you must not put a sickle to a standing grain. Don't harvest your brother's crop for yourself. It's his crop. So there's a distinction between I'm using what God has grown to nourish my body, and I'm stealing what my neighbor grew for my own profit. There's the distinction. So there's many rules. There's many things Moses is covering as he starts to wind up the book of Deuteronomy. We have a few more chapters to go, but just understand again, God is putting restrictions and giving rules and bringing up hypothetical situations to make sure that people understand this is what it's going to take to follow me once the doors of the promised land are open to you. We'll pick it up there next time, church. God bless you. Serve him well today.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.